5 things I wish I knew when I was making things in college. This is Mozilla's Love the Internet Hackathon. I'm David Smooke, the founder and CEO of HackerNoon. And this is a GIF with a cat saying the more you know, because we're talking about the internet today. HackerNoon is a place for technologists. I wanted to give you some perspective of what I'm making. Anyone can publish there. So publish.hackernoon.com. You can talk about what you made today, and what you're making this weekend, or you can talk about something in the future. But this up and coming generation, like we heard from some great speakers today, are going to reinvent how we consume the internet. I'm more focused on text, and I thought it would be helpful to kind of share a story of how I stumbled into making HackerNoon with the hope that other people can take their projects and make them their own businesses. Because I think the economy is much better when people are running their own small companies, as opposed to centralizing, a lot of the power. So for me, that meant going to college, working at a newspaper, apprenticing at a startup, and then building my own startup. And the journey there from college to newspaper, I studied creative writing and economics, so really nothing to do with computer science. It matters. And then, like many people, after college, I didn't make any plans, and I moved into my parents' basement where rent was free. And that was kind of my thinking there. And I eventually got a job, a month or two later at the Lewistown Sentinel. And, like many people when I was graduating, it was a depression. It was 2010, if that wants to date me a little bit, as we're coming out of the real estate crisis, and the economy people are dealing with now is really tough. So getting a job that gets your foot in the door that's anything related to your business is a good thing. And I looked at the job as how to save money and move to a city and be around a bunch of young people my age and have a bunch of fun and learn as much as I could. But there were things in the job that, end up carrying over. And every job you do, there will be things and details that will shape your mindset. And I brought this picture because I used to retitle all these syndicated advice columns. So they would syndicate to the local paper, and then I'd get the opportunity to write kind of a headline. And sometimes I would make it kind of funny, like, what do we got here? Vietnam Day poems, wife now sleeps at friend's house, mother muddles online network, friends tussle over hotel room bill. So it was just kind of fun, but it carried into HackerNoon because retitling a story changes the whole trajectory of a business. These little things shape. And if you're looking at the next step of your career, it can be good to join a startup. Like I joined Smart Recruiters when it was 5 people, and it had 1 room in a office building. When I left, they had their own building and they had 100 people working there. So I kind of got to see how a startup worked, and I looked at that like a lot like my graduate school. So, I would advocate, if you're considering grad school, to kind of look around and say, maybe I could work at a startup, and learn how to have my own business. So these 5 lessons here really date me. I feel pretty old, having worked in tech now for a decade. But, who would have thought Dwight would be the top salesperson in the office? Look at him, but he's still the best, and he becomes the manager. But I just bring this up to kind of take it with a grain of old man salt, that I haven't thought about college in a while, and it was good to kind of reflect and think about, what could I tell my younger self to make a better internet business today? And the first thing I think is probably the best, but if ugly is functional, ugly is beautiful. And what I mean by this is, if it works, and you can move around, buy yourself time, and work on other aspects of your business. In my career at HackerNoon, I made the primary color of the site 02550 green. And it wasn't out of any reason. It was just over a beer with a friend, and that became part of the identity, and that became part of the association of where am I right now. And, it's our own little version of Facebook blue, the color itself. And even though at first it didn't look like crucial, and it didn't look good, and a lot of people could see it and not feel as good about it. So but it got us what we needed, and it grew the association. It let people know where they were on the internet, and it's becoming over time more of our accent color. And more, as we have more people around to make a better product and a better site. But it bought me time, and it allowed me to work on other things in my business. So as you decide what to work on, if it's working, just let it sit and let it work, and focus on other things because it can be very tempting when someone tells you that is not as good as it could be, or that is wrong, to try and fix it right away. And I would just say, in building your products, try and resist that urge. And Also at HackerNoon, I mean, it started as a part-time project for me. It started a part-time project, really everyone that's joined the team. You know, and it took a year for enough revenue for it to be a full-time job, and it took 2 years for it to be enough revenue for 2 full-time jobs. So my real advice is if a project covers your expenses, you buy the time to grow it. And so if you don't think about how this thing could make a single dollar from the beginning, you're going to lose the buy-in, and because it won't be the reason that your rent is paid. And if it's the reason your rent is paid, so you're going to work more on it. So, and this also hits what Mozilla was saying in the beginning of just like it has to be sustainable for the people involved in it. And if it's not sustainable for the person making it, it's definitely not going to be sustainable for the person using it. My third piece of advice today is to sacrifice to get in the right room. And that can mean a number of different things to a number of different career paths. The key is you spend time in order to create time with people who have the skills and abilities that you want to have. You know, you're not going to become a better tennis player if you don't play with better tennis players. So if you want to build with AR, you got to figure out, how do I get in the room with the best AR engineers, and how do I talk to them? How do I get in their chat rooms? You know, so those types of things of giving up time up front in order to get in the right room. And then once you're in the right room, it's a level playing field, and it's your intelligence, your empathy, your work ethic will all just shine through. In my career, it was I took an unpaid internship with smart recruiters over paid opportunities to work a bar. And it wasn't, and I could have done both, but I just kind of wanted to focus a little more on the internet and learn how to make a good internet business. And then I also had to kind of force the discussion early of I need a sustainable wage, and that forced that problem. And that was a good thing, you know, and I don't think unpaid internships are generally good, but I do know no matter what industry you're trying to break into, you're going to have to take steps to sacrifice up front so that you can get the earballs and the ears and eyes of the people that know the skills and the abilities in the industry better than you. And as you're, you know, coming out of college, I imagine with your expertise, there's things you know more about than other people. And you know, when you talk to them, you know more about this issue or how this technology works. And I would just take a moment to remind people that, like, you can always be more humble, and that can help carry, you know, your project much further. And my example was, you know, this will date me again with my first hourly wage was $5.35 an hour, working 10 p.m. to 5 a.m., moving stacks of newspaper off the printer to the delivery thing, delivery vans, delivery trucks. And it was a, you know, physical labor, night shift, brutal job. And I may or may not have been the smartest person in the room, but I definitely knew every single person in there knew more about the business than I did. So really, as that kind of make this next step in your career, if you just listen, you can use your intelligence later. And then as a kind of a last piece of advice here to contradict all my previous advice and fit, you know, more with today, is to just go for it anyway. And my wife, my business partner, Ling, she also wrote a blog post about it. And it was about founding the Creative Kid Project. She started this summer camp just because she wanted it to exist in Vietnam. And the school structure there is a little more rigid. And having a program focused on creativity would help middle school kids a lot in terms of their educational development. So she just went for it anyway and ended up co-founding it in college. And the co-founder went on to be one of the early employees at Ripple and invent Interledger. And now Interledger is built with Coil. And we have a business partner of HackerNoon and Coil. So it's just kind of like these circles. If you build the thing that you just want to exist, it will come back to you in good ways. So I'm hopeful, you know, that some of this stuff, like whether you don't start a business with your hackathon, that it can just kind of circle back and help your career later. And then this is kind of the point in the presentation where I just want to remind you that if you remember one thing, it's that your time is your most valuable asset. And you're facing a hackathon here of how to ship something in 24 hours. The more shortcuts you can take, the better. Or the more you focus on what drives the experience of the thing or what makes the thing valuable, you know, you'll come out the other side better. And so this is HackerNoon. And as a reminder, you can publish the story about what you make this weekend. Just go to publish.hackernoon.com, click Start Writing. And as a small reminder, we are also hiring. So if you want to work together on a project, you can check out more on the careers.